Okay, my deepest apologies. I was having connection issues. It could have been a series of things that was going on. My computer as well as my PlayStation Pro was running. They were sitting idle, but because of updates that could have popped in at any given moment, that could have interfered with the internet connection. Not to mention that I haven't powered cycled my modem in months. So um, once I noticed that I lost connection, I went back and shut the computer off, shut the PlayStation off, and then powered cycled the modem. And so it looks like we're back up and running. Hopefully everything's fine. So my apologies for that. So I entitled this stream Part 2, where I'm going to resume my top 10 VR countdown. Okay, so let me bring that back up again. And once again, my apologies for the technical difficulties. So, so just to recap my top 10. So I got three of them done so far. Uh, we had Space Junkies at number 10, Ace Combat 7 at number 9. We had Path of the Warrior at number 8. And I think that might have been. Nope, that wasn't when I started having a problem. So we got Path of the Warrior at number 8. And we've got Pistol Whip at number 7. You know, and I talked about how one simple thing made me like that game. And it was the simple fact that you could pistol whip enemies as you're coming up on them. And it's supposed to be a rhythm shooter, and the object is to kill the enemies to the beat of the music. Because of all the moving around you have to do from moving from the obstacles and ducking gunfire coming from enemies, is really hard to shoot enemies on beat. You know, to the beat of the music. I'm just trying to kill them so I can survive. So, but nonetheless, it's still a fun game. And then I opted to buy it on the Oculus platform because the game was cross-buy. So I was able to get the game on both the Oculus Quest and the Oculus Rift, and only had to purchase it once. So I'm definitely cool with this cross-buy thing. I definitely like it, and I think that's one thing that drives more and more customers to the Oculus platform is the cross-buy. And I think for developers that looking to put their games on the Quest, I think if they allow cross-buy, that's something that pretty much guarantees that their game will probably get sold. Okay, so let's go ahead and resume this countdown. And once again, after I list where the game is in the top 10, I'll give my reason why it got into the top 10, and if there's a reason why I feel like the game could have went higher, then I'll explain that too. So now resuming this countdown, we're at number 6, and at number 6 was Everybody's Golf. I don't know if anybody caught that part of it because that's when this stream started to experience problems. But number 6 is Everybody's Golf. Cool. And I've talked about, is this Mass Effect? Hey, how cool? I know I said that to you before, Craig, but how cool would that be if Mass Effect was in VR? Even with the story confusing me the way it did, if Mass Effect was in VR, I would play it. But I will say this, Craig. There are a lot of there are guys out there that's starting to take some of our favorite flat screen games and adding VR mods to it. So, for instance, there's a guy named Nibre. He did a VR mod for Alien Isolation, and now he's currently working on a VR mod for Halo Reach. And I guess once his intentions is for you to be able to use separate controllers for Halo Reach. There's a VR mod out there for Grand Theft Auto 5. You can play that in VR now. There's a mod out there for Half-Life 2. So independent people are starting to take more of our favorite VR games. I mean VR flat. Let me try that again. More and more independent people are starting to take some of our favorite flat screen games and putting them in VR. So for somebody to put Mass Effect in VR, for somebody to do that kind of a mod, is not far-fetched. So if you would have talked to me about this time last year, I would have told you that we need more people to get on board on VR in order for us to get these AAA experiences. And I felt like in the case of EA, for them to get on board with VR, they have to see that VR is a gold mine. And I figured that if that happened, they would maybe give us Madden fully playable in VR. You know, all their sports titles fully playable in VR. The Battlefield games fully playable in VR, and then maybe even go into the Vault and play, you know, and bring some of their classics to VR. But with these independent people starting to do this now, we don't need EA. So my tone now is a lot different than it was last year. I don't need EA. If they decide to get on board, great. But if they don't, sooner or later somebody might take one of their games and put a VR mod on it. Not only in the thing about that is that I think EA subscriptions are not doing that well, because their games are starting to make their way over to Steam now, because Jedi Fallen Order is on Steam. So I think as EA probably brings more of their games over to Steam, that increases the probability that somebody could do a VR mod on those games. So short story long, Mass Effect in VR is not out of the realm of possibility. And I'd like to see somebody do it, you know. So maybe, you know, in future podcasts, maybe I'll like keep trying to mention that. Maybe I'll pass that word on to, you know, some of my bigger VR friends like Gamertag, and maybe like have them mention it, because he's commanding a lot of respect in the VR community. He is friends with developers as well as other big YouTubers. So they are watching him. You know, whenever he goes live, they are paying attention to him. So yeah, maybe I could run that by him and be like, hey, put the word out. You know. So, but I was saying, Everybody's Golf is number 6 on my list, and that game made my list because it goes back to me saying that I would love to be able to play every major sport fully playable in VR. And although Everybody's Golf has a little bit, you know, they present the game to you as if it's some kind of arcade game. But in my opinion, I think the game is more of a sim than it is an arcade. You know, the mechanics of the game feels more like a simulator rather than something arcadey. And because of that, I was pleasantly surprised by Everybody's Golf. So I think the game is still a little bit pricey at $30, but I think if you're a golf lover, you will like Everybody's Golf. I think there's a total of I think there might be a total of 27 holes on the game. So I hope at some point they will add DLC and bring us more more golf courses on this game. So I hope this wasn't a situation where Sony just put this game out there just to put it out there and not continue to support it. Because, you know, the developers are supporting Firewall. They continue to give us maps, operators, that kind of stuff. Yes, they got their microtransactions in there, but they do continue to support the game. So Everybody's Golf is another game that I'd like to see support continue for the game and give us more courses. But it is a fun game. I think tracking on the game is pretty good. And I would recommend it to someone who is an avid lover of golf, and I would definitely recommend the game if it's on sale. So Number 5 on my top 10 is Defector. Um, I pretty much labeled Defector as Oculus's version of Blood and Truth. It has some similarities to Blood and Truth, but at the same time is different from Blood and Truth. I think Blood and Truth and Defector both have good stories. Now, I did not finish Defector, but I got 3/4 of the way through it. People have talked about the ending of Defector, saying that, I've heard a mixture of reactions about how Defector ended. I haven't gotten to it yet, so, I'll be the judge of it once I finish it. But the game does have some neat features. I think the game, for a $20 price tag, has a pretty good graphics, and I think the game is worth $20. And what I played so far, I like it. So I think Defector again, and I think it had a pretty good story. It has a pretty good story so far, and I would recommend it. So there you have it. Number 5 was Defector. Number 4, how this game even got into my top 10 is beyond me, but it got there. And that is Dead and Buried 2. Dead and Buried 2 is a fast-paced first-person shooter in a Western setting. Very cartoony graphics. I even go as far as to say maybe even PS2 type graphics. This game launched. I want to say that this game was a launch game for the Oculus Quest, and I think the game started out on the Quest and eventually came to the Rift S. I think that was the plan for Oculus, because I think this was supposed to be one of the games that was going to sell the Quest. At least get the ball rolling with the Quest. And the first couple of times I played the game, I didn't look at the game and be like, oh, this is trash. I just looked at the game. I played it with a little bit of disappointment because the quick draw from the previous Dead and Buried wasn't there. The first Dead and Buried had a quick draw feature, like you're in the middle of the town and you're having a draw against another opponent. When they say go, you pull your guns out and just start blazing at each other until one of them is dead. And that was a very popular mode that people liked on the original Dead and Buried, and it wasn't on Dead and Buried 2, so a lot of people were upset about that. And because of that, I think Dead and Buried 2 got some less than favorable reviews. But as time went on and I kept plucking away at this game, I started to like it a little bit more. And then I think playing this game on the Quest is what got this game into the top 10, because if it wasn't for the Oculus Quest, I can't say how much I would be playing this game. But there was too many times every Saturday when my son comes over. Basically, when my son comes over on Saturdays, that's a wrap. I don't get the computer back. So I do a lot of my gaming on the Quest. And so while he was on the computer, I'm playing Dead and Buried on the Quest. And it was there that I started liking the game more and more. What's up, Shaq? Glad you're back. Sorry about the technical difficulties that I had. And after I get done talking about this game, I'll just, do a quick recap of the top 10 and where we're at so far. But Dead and Buried is a really fun game. And I especially enjoy playing this game on the Quest over the Rift because of no cords. So I think it's a very underrated game. A simple game and a fun game, but underrated, Mr. Gamertag, how are you? So Dead and Buried made number 4 on my list. And when Dead and Buried first came out, if you would have told me that I would have Dead and Buried on my top 10, I would have told you were crazy. But here it is. It's on my top 10. It's a very fun and very underrated game. God of Games, how are you doing? So that brings us to number 3 on my top 10 list, and that is Stormland. Very, very great game. Graphics are equally in the top 3. Lone Echo still remains, I think, has the best graphics of any VR game that I've ever seen. I'm good, dude. Merry Christmas to you and yours. Same to you, Gamertag. I was watching your podcast earlier, your Christmas podcast. Nice sweater, by the way. Merry Christmas. I like the Christmas background that you had, and I think the And I think the music put everybody in a Christmas mood, man. So really good podcast. Um, God of Games, you said Russian Blood is my favorite. It is a good game, and but it's not included in the top 10 because I'm doing the top 10 of 2019 because there's a lot of VR games that I would throw in there, but I couldn't because they didn't release in 2019. So I have Rush of Blood for the PlayStation VR, but I have gone back and purchased some of these games on PC for the clarity. Like I went back and bought Batman VR for the clarity, and then like the Lab. Oh my God, how clean that game looks is incredible for a game that came out 2 years ago. The clarity and the graphics on that game is absolutely mind blowing for a game that's 2 years old. First time I saw that game was on the HTC Vive, and it was actually kind of blurry, but at the time it was still the best looking thing I had ever seen because all the headsets back then were still blurry. The PSVR, the Oculus Rift, and the HTC Vive, they were still blurry. And so, God of Games, you said Merry Christmas, guys from New Zealand. Hey, same to you. Merry Christmas from the United States, Michigan. I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan, so Merry Christmas to you, God of Games. Appreciate it. But Stormlands, I got away. Did talk about the graphics. The graphics are unbelievable in this game, and the story, it's more of a mystery right now. The story is more of a mystery. But hey, Big Cloud, what's going on, my guy? How you doing? Merry Christmas. Hope you have a good Christmas. Whether you're on the receiving end or whether you're on the giving end, I hope you have a great Christmas, my guy. So Stormland, the story of Stormland, simply put, you're trying to find out what happened to everybody. It looks like your civilization has been wiped out, and and you're kind of doing some backtracking, trying to find out what happened. So the game definitely has some great graphics. I've only scratched the surface of Stormland, but it's a great game, and I would definitely recommend it. Especially if you're a graphics whore like me, I would definitely recommend Stormland. But it is a great game as well as having some amazing graphics. Gamertag, you said big. Oh, okay. Yeah, this guy appears to be a troll. Normally, I would have got rid of him, but I'll just go ahead and let him say what he's got to say and get it out of his system. But if you want to engage with the guy, Gamertag, go ahead and be my guest. J-Dog, Merry Christmas. And I see your response there, Big Cloud. Same to you. So, that brings us to number 2 on my top 10 VR of 2019, and that would be Blood and Truth. Once again, big shout out to Mark of Sony London. As I said in the first part, of this video, when we did our VR Link top 10 countdown on Sunday with the VR Link, he was in the chat, and one of his comments caught my eye. And I read it back, and it was like, "Oh, that's Mark of Sony Studios," and I'm like, "Huh?" They was like, "Yeah, he's a technical director at Sony London," and I'm like, "The same people that developed, Blood and Truth? Yep, that guy." Whoa! So I was like, I was blown away that we had somebody from a Sony studio in our chat, So, he tweeted on Twitter that he thanked us for having Blood and Truth in our top 10, and he tagged all of us, and we now follow each other. So. Big shout out to Mark of Sony Worldwide Studios London, and hopefully down the line, I've said this on Live from Wakanda on Saturday. One of my tweets was that Sony London is working on another VR game, and my guess is it is a game that's probably going to be on the PS5. I can only imagine what it's going to look like when they have all that extra power to work with. What kind of game they might give us. So I was pleasantly surprised, Gamertag. I also in the first part of this video, before I lost my connection, I had pointed out that through you and through the VR link, I have met, some bigger YouTubers, developers, meeting Reggie Strange of Strange Studios, the developer of Honor and Duty. It was cool meeting him. It was cool meeting bigger YouTubers, Cass and Cherry, Paradise Decay, Nathy. It was all pretty cool meeting those people through you. So it's being on the VR link and being affiliated with you has opened up a bigger world of VR for me. So so I'm grateful for that. So thanks a lot for bringing me on board, my friend. Fatal Charade. I am doing good, my guy. How are you? Merry Christmas. So, Blood and Truth. Like being in an action movie. This was one of the games that I was waiting for. You said you can't believe Oculus Rift is sold out at Best Buy. I'm not exactly. The only reason why I would be surprised that the Oculus Rift is sold out is because of the Oculus Link cable. If it wasn't for the Oculus Link cable, I would not be surprised. Earlier this year, I read an article that said that the Oculus headsets account for 51% of the headsets that are on the Steam platform. So the Oculus headsets are selling, but the Oculus Quest being a standalone headset has changed the game, and the Oculus Link cable has definitely changed the game. So much to the point that people were starting to wonder if there's a future for the Oculus Rift, which I hope there is, because it is a great headset. It is incredibly clear. It is incredibly comfortable, and I absolutely love the Rift S. You said you're more than welcome. You love my opinions. Hey, I really appreciate it. So, with the Oculus Quest, it's taking VR to another level. Yeah, Fatal Charade. I see even the Oculus, the Valve Index is sold out. It's backed up until February, and some people on my Twitter have said that it's even further out than that. That it might, that it's even further out than February. So this is great for VR. VR is here. So for those naysayers about VR, it's here. Whether you like it or not, VR is here. We kicking in the door in 2020. We kicking the door off the hinges. Like it or not, VR is here. Now that I got that little bit out of the way, with Blood and Truth, the game felt like being in an action movie. The graphics was great. People talked about it being like an on-rail shooter, but it still had great mechanics. I absolutely loved the gameplay. Again, it felt like being in an action movie, and it had a great story. I absolutely loved it. And there is only one reason that this game did not make number one. I think the game had maybe 7 hours gameplay. And I wish the game was a little bit longer, but I only said that after I finished the game, because Blood and Truth is actually the only game. That's the last game that I finished, and it might be the only game of 2019 that I finished, because there's a lot of games that I got that I didn't finish, that I barely touched them, but I knew Blood and Truth was going to be one of those games. I said, I'm going to finish this game no matter how long it takes, because it was on my radar. Ever since they gave us London Heist on VR Worlds, and everybody was wanting, and screaming for a sequel to the London Heist, which is another great game. If you have a PlayStation VR, I definitely recommend VR Worlds just for London Heist alone, because London Heist was just that great. There's a couple other great experiences on it, but I think London Heist is the best experience on PlayStation VR World, so it's definitely a recommended game. Gotta grab it. And so with Blood and Truth, as I was saying, it's the last game that I finished, and it was a game that I said, I'm gonna finish this game no matter what. I think I even went as far as saying that I don't care if I'm in a hospital bed, I'm gonna finish this game. And I did. And then I think it had a great soundtrack. I talked about one of the songs in particular that I really loved. There was a song called Hercules. Like, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you. I was inside that DJ booth, messing around with the turntables and that kind of stuff, listening to that song. And then I think there was a scene where I was in a shootout with some guys, and that song was playing. I think that song was playing while I was having a shootout, and it really gave it really gave me that feeling of a action movie, of being in a shootout of an action movie. It gave me a feeling like the Transporter movie, being in a shootout or something like that inside the Transporter movie. So, Blood and Truth is definitely one of my is gone down in history already. It's one of my all time favorites. And if anybody gets a PlayStation VR and they contact me and say what games should I get, Blood and Truth is always going to be one of the games that I'm going to tell them that they should get. Absolutely tremendous game. Just absolutely loved it. So I bought it when it first came out. It was definitely money well spent. So shout out to Sony London for bringing us a great game. And that brings us to number 1 on my top 10 of 2019, and that would be Asgards Wrath. And that is one of the reasons why Blood and Truth was not number 1 on my list, was because Asgards Wrath came out. Asgards Wrath, in my opinion, was the closest thing to playing God of War in VR. It didn't quite have a story that was similar to God of War, because in fact, you're following the stories of several characters. Because I think I'm in the third, I'm in the third one. So anyway, you coming pretty close to getting your wish, Big. But Asgard's Wrath, I'd say the one simple thing that sold me on Asgard's Wrath was being able to throw that axe like Kratos and pull that axe back. And then you were able to put flames on the axe and throw it at enemies to do even more damage to them. So, great gameplay with Asgard's Wrath. As far as graphics goes, I would say it goes in this order of graphics. I think Lone Echo still has the best looking graphics. Asgard's Wrath is number 2, and Stormland is number 3. There's a whole bunch of other games you could throw in that mix that's got great graphics, but those are the ones that stand out to me offhand. And Asgard's Wrath, again, is just the only issue I have with Asgard's Wrath is the loading time. Some of these games, some of the scenes take forever to load, and you have a bag or a pouch that you keep your items in. As you collect these items, you put them in this pouch, and the bag gets full after a while. So you have to go back to Asgard's, where you have a storage chest, and unload some of this stuff. But traveling back and forth to Asgard takes forever because of the loading times. But if it wasn't for that, I probably would have put way more time into Asgard's Wrath, because that's a game where you gotta have time devoted to play that game because of the loading times. But surprisingly, I haven't dealt with any kind of loading screens on Stormland. Every time I jump into the game, it automatically picks up where I left off. No loading or nothing. It just instantly pops up. So that's pretty cool. But Asgard's Wrath, I'm big into Norse mythology. And when it comes to superheroes, naturally, Thor is my favorite superhero. And I've been fascinated with Norse mythology all the way back when I was a kid, when the best way to get information was through an encyclopedia. So we had a set of encyclopedias, and I went and grabbed T and Thor, and then that's how I learned about Thor and all the other mythical gods in Norse mythology. And I had become fascinated with it, and Thor remains my favorite superhero to this very day. So that alone, hoping to hear mention of Thor in Asgard's Wrath, that was another thing that drew me to the game. So a lot of the Norse gods are mentioned in this game if they're not in there. So the gameplay, being able to throw the axe and retrieve it, the graphics, the lore of Norse mythology, all of that drew me to Asgard's Wrath, and it is because it is my number 1 game of the year. So, and that is my VR top 10. And next, I'm going to talk about the impact of VR. Um, all right, Big got his wish. He was begging to get thrown out of here. I gave him his wish. I never thought that in VR I would have to deal with trolls because when I was caught up in that console war stuff, I dealt with a few trolls because that was to be expected. I blocked them chats. I got them from my phone. None of my moderators are in here right now. Um, but if any of my moderators would have been in here, I would have called for them to get rid of this guy. But I tried to give the guy a chance to be part of a discussion and give his honest opinion rather than trolling. I don't expect the guy to have to I don't expect the guy to agree with me. In fact, I don't want him to agree with me. There's a difference between having a civilized disagreement and just flat out trolling. This guy was trolling. But somehow I wouldn't be surprised if I know this person, because that's happened a few times where people that I know have come into my chat as trolls. And I just played stupid and act like I didn't know who they were. But I knew who they were. So, but I just don't have time for that childish shit. I'm 52 years old. I'm not going to go back and forth arguing with somebody. This is my passion, to share my passion, with people on this channel, and have passionate discussions about our hobbies, and not to get caught up in childish arguments with somebody that's just there to make trouble. So that's one thing that's not going to change about me, is that I won't have a problem ejecting trolls. So now let me run down my top 10 again, because I know the first part of it was cut off. I'm not going to go into a lengthy explanation. I'm just going to simply run it off, and then we're going to go into the impact that I think VR is having. So just a quick recap. Number 10 was Space Junkies. Number 9 was Ace Combat 7 VR Mission. Number 8 was Path of the Warrior. Number 7 was Pistol Whip. Number 6 was Everybody's Golf. Number 5 was Defector. Number 4 is Dead and Buried 2. Number 3 is Stormland. Number 2 is Blood and Truth. And number 1 was Asgards Wrath. That is my top 10 games of 2019. I think 2020 is probably going to be the biggest year ever in VR. Because I think these games are not only going to look good, I think they're going to push the mechanics and the gameplay to the next level. Because the way things are sitting right now, we have a lot of great looking games, but there's only so much interaction. There's games where you might be in a room and there's cups and bowls and stuff like that sitting on a table, but you can't grab them, you can't pick them up. But I think games like Boneworks, although I haven't played it yet, I think I'm going to go ahead and pick Boneworks up, because I bought 3 games today on Steam, and I was less than impressed with all 3 of them. So I requested a refund. Steam gave me a refund, so I'm going to use that money to go ahead and buy Boneworks, and maybe I'll stream Boneworks later on. I do have a lot of stuff to do today, but Boneworks is just the curiosity of that game is killing me. Even if it looks like a tech demo, even if the game appears like it doesn't have a campaign, the curiosity of this game is just killing me. The physics of this game, to me, it looks like, from what I've seen, if it's sitting on a table, if it's a cup, a spoon, a plate, a napkin, whatever might be sitting on the table, to me it looks like you can grab it. And Half-Life Alyx, to me, is going to take those elements of interaction and graphics and give us a great story on top of it. So I think Half-Life Alyx is going to raise the bar. So that's one of the reasons why I think 2020 is going to be a great year, because I think a lot of these games are not only going to be great, I think they're going to raise the bar in terms of how much you can interact with these games, and I think they're going to raise the bar as far as immersion goes. So here's to a great 2020, and I think 2020 is going to get off to a great start, because we've got Iron Man VR on February 28th. We've got Half-Life Alyx in March of 2020. We don't have an exact date yet. I do believe we have Medal of Honor VR in the first quarter of 2020. And I know we've got Lone Echo 2 coming at some point in 2020. Lo-Fi looks like it's going to be a highly anticipated game. Definitely has a Blade Runner look to it. I think that's going to be a great game. You're right. Gamertag, the situation with my mods, most of my mods that I have, they were when I first started my channel, and they were made mods at a point when this console war stuff was going on. So my moderators that I have right now, they still like my podcast, but they're not passionate about VR the way I am, so they're not always in here. So with that being said, it's time to add a couple of more mods. So give me a second, because I'm definitely, whenever I see him again, I'm definitely going to make Christopher Hart a mod. He's been a supporter of my channel for quite a while, and he definitely has been a supporter of my channel once I made the jump over to VR, so he's definitely going to get a wrench. And so I'm going to add a few more mods. Just a second here. And you got a wrench. You got a wrench, Gamertag. You know what? Here. Shat's got a wrench too. So, okay, let me see here. There's Mick. And he gets a wrench too. So I think, and I'll give Christopher Hart. Yeah, I'll give, and then I'm choosing all of you guys as mods because I do believe that you'll monitor the chat to make sure we keep the toxic people out. But again, I'm the type of person, I can spot a troll when they come in there, because I'm not going to ban a person for the first thing that comes out of their mouth. I'll get rid of them when it becomes obvious that they are going out of their way to start trouble. So, I mean, this big guy, look how many messages he was sending. He was making it clear that he was a troll. If he would have just said one message and left it at that, I wouldn't have banned him because I wouldn't have been able to tell if he was a troll or not. But after the second or the third message, it became obvious. So, hey, thanks a lot, chats. But now, no problem, Mick. Welcome aboard. Like I said, I think I'll give Christopher Hart a wrench the next time I see him, and I think that'll complete the moderator roster at the moment. You said you love banning people. Myself, I actually hate doing it. Because I do want to feel like I'm giving people a chance to give their opinions, even if it doesn't coincide with my beliefs. Because I still believe that people are entitled to their opinions, but there's a difference between disagreeing with me and being a troll. Because one thing I don't want is people being like robots and just agreeing with every single thing I say, but at the same time, I don't want them to outright come in here being a troll. You said you banned over 80, which I find really surprising because I feel like the VR community is like 98% positive. And I think since switching over to becoming fully VR centric, I think that big guy, I think he's only the second person that I had to ban. So appreciate opinions, dude. 100%. These were pure dregs. Yeah, no doubt. I appreciate it, Shat. You said you got my back. I definitely appreciate it. So let's move on. I had to scratch the back of my nugget, so sorry about that. So VR's impact. What I want to talk about in VR's impact is like I said earlier, VR is kicking in the door. You can't stop it. It's coming. And even when VR was getting off to a slow start and people were talking about that VR wasn't going to last, I was telling they don't have VR enthusiasts. They're just people who find live streams and write bad stuff. Exactly. What I was telling people about VR, even when it got off to a slow start and it was like super niche, I was telling the people that VR is not going to go away because every year at these electronic shows, VR and AR is always center stage. It's always front stage because these manufacturers are always showing the advancement of VR and AR. They are always showing what you can do. You know, I guess like as we speak right now, Facebook is dropping billions of dollars into some AR glasses that I think we might see in 2020 with I think with an operating system. So it looks to me like you definitely going to be able to access the internet with these AR glasses. And you know, people was looking at me. You know, people have laughed at me in the past when I said that I think AR glasses are going to replace the smartphone as we know it. I think everything you're going to be able to do on a smartphone, you're going to be able to do on these AR glasses as well as other things. Skype calls, holographic Skype calls, you know, where, you know, maybe the VR link, we do a Skype call, and instead of being on cameras, I've got holographic images of every one of the VR link members, and we're all having a conversation in augmented reality. And their images are right there in front of me to the point where I could almost walk up to them and just shake that image's hand. I think that's where we're headed. And I think people, you know, some people have laughed at me, but I believe that's where we're headed. And I think if we're headed for those kind of experiences, the impact that it's going to have on social media is going to be absolutely crazy. I think when these VR glass, these AR glasses that I speak of, when it hits the mainstream, I'm willing to bet you like every woman that thinks she's an Instagram model is gonna have a pair of these glasses, and you can go to their Instagram page and check out their page, and then like if you have AR glasses, maybe for $5, you can you can see like a pre-recorded holographic message where you're actually there and this person is talking to you, walking around, you know, showing you their house, you know, in AR, whatever the case may be, to the point where you can almost reach out and touch them. We are looking at the next big evolution. It's coming. I think VR is still going to have its place, but I think AR is going to. You got to take off. Hey, okay, Gamertag, appreciate you stopping by. And hope to see you doing some gaming streams later on today, because I plan on doing some game streams today. And there's probably like about a 90% chance that I'm going to pick up Boneworks today and play that. And if that be the case, I will stream it. So keep your eyes open for that. But VR's impact right now is here. And I think the situation that we have right now going on with the Oculus Quest is bittersweet. Because the Oculus Quest and the Valve Index being sold out right now speaks to the increased interest in VR, but at the same time, it's another avenue for these retailers and individual people on eBay to scout these products. You know, I expected to see people on eBay jack up the prices of the Quest and other VR headsets, but I definitely didn't expect to see this from retailers. But this has been going on for a couple of years. I've said it before that even back when the PlayStation VR first came out, for something that the media said was going to fail, that it wasn't going to catch on and that kind of stuff, I'm seeing Walmart selling the PlayStation VR for $1,500. You said I'm back, out driving, listening in. Okay, Shats, welcome back. So for again, you know, being that you just walked in, Shats, the media speaking that VR, especially the PlayStation VR, how is going to fail, wasn't going to catch on, is going to make people steer away from it because of motion sickness, all kinds of stuff. But yet I'm seeing Walmart sell this headset for $1,500. So this wasn't terribly surprising to hear that retailers are jacking up the prices of the Oculus Quest. It wasn't exactly surprising. It is actually disappointing because I think VR is something that everybody should experience, and I think again VR is on the rise. I think teenagers, my son's age, I think more and more of them are wanting an Oculus Quest, and I think there's going to be some disappointed teenagers that are not going to be able to get an Oculus Quest because they're out. And I don't. And for once, I don't think this is a gimmick by Oculus. I've accused Sony and Microsoft of creating false shortages in the past in order to drive up demand of their products. And I feel like if you got a warehouse full of a million headsets that's waiting to be released out to the public, don't hold them back and create a false shortage to try to drive up demand and then slowly trickle them out to the public. Let them come out to the public and let everybody experience this greatness. And when the Oculus Quest first came out and there was a shortage of headsets, I was beginning to question whether Oculus was doing that, whether they were holding back and to try to create a false shortage in order to drive up demand. And then they slowly started trickling out. And then for a minute, it looked like they were being able to keep up with demand. I would walk into Walmart's and I would see maybe one or two Oculus Quests inside the glass and then come back a couple of days later and they'd be gone. So at that point, it looked to me like Oculus was just struggling to keep up. So Christmas, is sold out. This time, I don't think Oculus is pulling any shit. I really think they just can't keep up with demand of this headset. And it's going to be unfortunate that I think Oculus is going to miss out on a lot of money because they can't keep up with this demand. And I think it's going to be disappointing that some people, 13, 14-year-olds in particular, are not going to be able to experience this. So I've tried to burn that into my son's head that he's very fortunate that we were able to get an Oculus Quest. Yes, it took a while for me to get it because when I made the move to go ahead and get one, I couldn't find them. They were sold out everywhere. And I could have ordered one from Amazon and it would have showed up like maybe 2 weeks later. But I was not going to take that chance because I was not going to have a delivery guy just drop the shit at my door and walk away. And if I'm not there to intercept that package, then somebody's going to steal it. So I'm not going to buy one until somebody has them on their shelf where I can walk into the store and physically buy it. So because of that, it took me a while to get an Oculus Quest. But yes, I eventually did get one, and to think I almost sold it. Naturally, my son wanted a gaming PC, and he wanted his own Oculus Rift headset. And when he first, asked me to get that for him, it wasn't in the cards financially. Because, I would have been looking at about $1,000 for a PC and $400 for the headset. So my thinking was I would get him the Quest and that would get him by until I got him a PC. So once I started to see light at the end of the tunnel and getting him a PC and a headset was starting to be within reach, I needed a few more dollars to make it happen. So my son said, well, go ahead and sell the Quest to put you over the top so you'll have enough money to get it. And I said, are you sure about this? And he said, yeah. So I brought the Quest back home and I was going to put it on sale on eBay. But something in my gut just would not let me do it. I could not do it. And I'm so glad I didn't do it because I love the Oculus Quest. Is it replacing the Rift? No, but it has its own place. And I absolutely love it. I feel fortunate to have one, and such a convenience. But that's the impact that VR is starting to have. Here we are at Christmas. Valve Index, Oculus Quest sold out. Super hard to get one. And I'm hoping that Sony Well, it's already Christmas, but I just hope Sony does another sale more sooner than later, because I still want to see I want to see as many headsets out there as possible. So yeah, Mick, I'm so glad I made that decision to keep that Oculus Quest. I absolutely love it, and so I think that is all I've got. Uh, Shout out to everybody that came here. I appreciate it. Once again, shout out to Mark, the technical director at Sony, for tweeting us out and tagging us. Appreciate that. And with that being said, I think I'm going to boogie on out of here. What time is it? It was 12:05. I still got to run out and finish up some Christmas shopping, and then I got to get my workout in. So I want to do a stream later on today. Now, as I said, if I do pick up Boneworks, I will definitely stream it. I know I'm late to the party if I get this game. I know a lot of other people have already streamed this game, but hell, if I get it, then you'll get it with my flavor. And you said what I like about PC VR gaming, discount on games. Absolutely. Hey, thanks a lot, Chess. I really, really appreciate it. Hey, Merry Christmas to you too. It's only between how much I work, the chores I have to do here at home, trying to get my workouts in, trying to manage this YouTube channel, and still trying to find time to have fun in VR. There's only so many hours in the day. Oh, but you know what? One more thing before I go. I'm going to type my Oculus Quest username in the chat. There you go. So, if you have an Oculus Quest, send me a friend request on the Oculus Quest. And the reason I say that is because I'm thinking about doing a Q&A on AltSpace. AltSpace is a social app where you can attend a number of events, comedy shows, concerts, what have you. And in one of my previous podcasts, I talked about how I stumbled into a Q&A. And I'm thinking about actually doing a Q&A. And I was trying to think of a number of topics. And one of the topics that I was thinking about doing for a Q&A is growing up a Mayweather. Some of you people know that I am Floyd Mayweather's first cousin. And I've got a lot of stories about growing up with him. I'm 10 years older than him. And I babysat him quite a bit when his father was still fighting. And the other Mayweathers, Jeff Mayweather, Roger Mayweather, and Floyd Mayweather Sr. are my uncles. And I've got a lot of stories growing up with them. So I thought about doing a Q&A on AltSpace, basically taking questions from the crowd, answering questions of what it was like growing up a Mayweather, because before they became famous, I saw them every day. But once they became famous, once they moved out in Las Vegas and their careers got underway, I didn't see them that much. Floyd Sr., I probably still see him maybe twice a year because he still comes home quite a bit. Jeff, even though he's the least known out of the Mayweathers, he's the busiest because a lot of fighters that's getting their career started are coming to him. Floyd Sr., on the other hand, he's very selective about who he's willing to train. And because Jeff is an open door, Jeff has an open door. He'll train anybody. Because of that, he's extremely busy. And Floyd Jr., we know his story. He's just rich. He's doing his thing. And I think it's probably been about a year since I saw him. But again, I got a ton of stories growing up with all of them. So I was thinking about doing a Q&A on AltSpace and taking questions. Because I actually liked that Q&A that that I came into on Altspace. So it's a thought. But in any case, there is my Oculus Quest. There's my Oculus username, period. Lincoln_Clay. Send me a friend request. Not only am I thinking about doing this Q&A on Altspace, he said that's so cool. You'd love to hear him. Yes, I got a ton of story chats. Also, you know, send me a friend request and let's play some games. Let's play Dead and Buried 2. Let's play Star Trek Bridge Crew on the Quest, or, you know, because it's crossplay, so it doesn't really matter which one. It doesn't really matter which headset we play it on, but we can definitely do it. So send me a friend request on the Quest, you know, and I'd love to game with some of you guys. So so with that being said, that's all I got. I'm gonna go ahead and boogie on out of here and get Christmas wrapped up. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Like, comment, share, all that good stuff. Congratulations to my new mods. They got wrenches. You know, I trust you will do a great job of monitoring and regulating comments in the chats. And with that being said, I'm going to get ready to boogie on out of here, and we will see everybody later. Deuces.